Welcome back to the Lineout Lab. My name is Peter O'Donnell. Last week I looked at the Irish lineout and James Ryan's calling in particular and showed that perhaps it wasn't as bad as it was made out to be, which leads in nicely to this video as we look at how to get on in Test 2. As always, if you're new to the channel, click that subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of your screen where you'll get access to loads of additional content from me. Please also like and share the video to help the discussion grow. Thank you. Before getting into it, if you're interested in learning how to coach the lineout throw to beginners or to more experienced players, check out these two new courses which I've launched recently. I'll put the details in the description. Ireland got off to a really good start actually with a nice little variation of a movement they had done a lot last week. It was actually the movement I'd pointed out was well called in terms of decision making in the lineout process, but just its execution let it down, which we see here in terms of the timing of the whole movement. But if we watch it again, we can see how Ireland basically the same movement again, but just with a slight variation in terms of the initial setup and an extra dummy, but added in at the front of the lineout. And the reason this works so well is because of New Zealand's mirror defence. They're very good at actually tracking and particularly covering and getting to the front of the lineout. But they often struggle to get back then once they've committed to that movement at the front. Ireland then do pretty much the same movement again from a 6-man. Now it is defended with 5-man from New Zealand. Occasionally they have put in less men in the lineout, but nonetheless it's attacking that same space and getting that front defensive jumper to bite on the initial movement. So it's well worked by Ireland, and it's a hard one to defend because of the speed of movement that it's done, and it's tricky for New Zealand then to turn and get back, or even just get that first jumper who's committed to maybe just keep him up in the air. So it's I've seen both different defenses try different things in that respect. Another area where I felt Ireland could potentially attack the All Blacks was just basically doing a quicker lineout. And we see it here as Ireland walk in, they go straight away once to get to the lineout, which I think is always a good ploy to try against any lineout defence. So the quicker you can move and get in, and the better your opportunity to secure possession, I feel. One last time, we see how they get to the lineout, they go straight away. Ireland also had a nice little change up here in this lineout when they moved to a squash or a loaded position with 3 men at the front of the lineout, and with O'Mahony going back on a 3-step lob or 2-step lob, we see that they're able to exploit that kind of mirror defence as well, making it very difficult for Barrett and Retallick to get up here and put them under pressure. So just causing a bit of confusion, which I thought again was a nice little variation by Ireland to attack that defensive system. We also see a nice little variation by Ireland with this movement where we keep our eyes on Ryan and watch how he rolls past the second man in the lineout to secure the ball in the first test, but then in the second test what he does nicely is, or what Ireland do nicely, is use that as a bit of deception to make it look like it's the same as the previous week, but Ryan's going to pop out in much like the same way that we've seen with the previous move that I identified, where Ireland are attacking that mirror defence. So Barrett nearly gets up, to be fair, because they're probably onto that type of movement, but nonetheless was good by Ireland. We then see a nice little variation from Ireland where we're going to watch Doris dummy Ryan in the middle, and he'll slip out and Ryan will come forward, and Ireland will win the ball at the front. So it's a movement they've done before, but because the way the All Blacks are defending, kind of giving that front space, it just held them a little bit longer to secure possession and give an opportunity to get in the front foot. As you watch this next clip, at the time when I watched it live, I felt Ireland should have just done something similar to previously and win the ball at the front of the lineout. New Zealand are still down to 14 men. Ireland had put them under pressure in a previous Maul in the first half, and I just thought it was probably safer and easier in terms of not even winding down the clock, but just applying pressure and keep them in that red zone for a bit longer. So I was probably surprised that they didn't go for that option, and obviously ultimately it led to a bit of confusion and Ireland lost the ball. To be fair to Ireland, it's not really an area you ordinarily associate with them. It's more down to Ireland than a New Zealand pressure. So I suppose from a coaching perspective, that's pleasing in that it should be easily fixable. Not something you still want to happen, but something you can fix for sure. And in this next one, it looks like Ireland have got a bit of confusion here initially, or it's a little bit slow. But actually, I think they've kept their cool really well, and the throw and the execution is of the movement is very good. So I thought this was quite good from Ireland, that given the pressure that Barrett in particular was putting them under. In this next clip, Ireland get picked off. They're actually without Ryan, who got yellow carded at the end of the first half. I think it's actually good defence from New Zealand in that they recognise Doris is in, and Ireland are probably unlikely to go to him. And I wonder, will Ireland use, or maybe use a different setup with for their 5 man? That kind of 1-4 split is something we've seen before. They used it the previous week when they did that turn movement. So maybe in the third test they might have a little variation on this. Ireland also got turned over in a Maul, which was a little bit unlucky. But again, I think it was actually quite good defence from New Zealand. It's a good idea from Ireland, and it's well worked. You can argue just as a kind of transfer here that they need a bit more protection on the inside, but that's actually not where they get exposed. Sam Kane and Cody Taylor do a really good job of taking out Porter and Van der Fleer. So it was a good idea. I wonder if Ireland were to try it again, would they manipulate themselves into a situation where they have different personnel in that front wall? Or would they look to have a more distinctive front wall of three with someone coming on the ball, which might give them more stability? But either way, I think it was a good idea to try something a little bit different against New Zealand's Maul defence, which I think has been quite good, to be fair. That said, I feel Ireland were a little bit unlucky not to score a try here. It was one of the areas I felt that they could look to expose New Zealand a bit better from the first test going into this game. And here they get a really good platform. They're going forward, and although they get awarded a penalty, I wonder will they be disappointed that their maul got broken up. If we see here between Ryan and Byrne, Vitalik does a really good job to get in between and make it difficult for Ireland to get go forward. So I felt it was a better day overall for Ireland. They even got some pressure on New Zealand with this early turnover. But in relation to their own ball, they had one decent maul. Their decision making generally is quite good, and their execution was better. So it makes it an intriguing third test with Whitelock coming back in and Barrett going back to the back row, which is going to be a real challenge for Ireland. But I think overall the Irish line has been quite competent, and perhaps not as bad as it's been made out to be. Um, Certainly, I'm looking forward to the weekend to see how it goes. As always, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts.